after the Great Southern Trendkill came out, they put out a live album. Now, I was never a big fan of this album in particular. It's a lot of their live stuff. A dirty little secret about these live albums. A lot of them are not even live at a venue. They're like live in the studio, and they just put sound effects of an audience. So when I realized they did that, you can kind of tell which albums are the live ones, because they'll tell you live in Ohio, or live in Virginia, or live in Seattle. When they don't tell you a specific city, usually that means it's studio live, and they just add in the audience effects. But you can tell they kind of did that here, and it even says on the back, studio recording May '97, which means they didn't take from live shows. And I've heard bootlegs of Metallica bootlegs of Pantera that were much better than the actual album. But it's still a good album if you just want to hear the Pantera songs in a different way, in a more live way. But the thing I like about this album is the treasure on this album that made me like the album at the time. This album came out before there was MP3 players, so it made me like the CD. There's the 13th track, the 15th track called Where You Come From. It's a recorded track, and to me it's after the Great Southern Trendkill, it was good to hear them go back to more of a groove sound, and that Where You Come From has a nice groove to it, and it has the best Dimebag Darrell guitar solo. It's my favorite. Everybody's opinion is different, so it probably won't be the best of a lot of people, but it's my favorite guitar solo he ever did. So even though I didn't like the live sound of this album, Where You Come From was worth me buying the album, because it had the best Dimebag Darrell guitar solo right in the middle. So that's Pantera Official Live 101 Proof. It's okay, it's decent if you want to just hear a different angle on the tracks. And the last but not least, the album Reinventing the Steel. Unfortunately, this was the biggest disappointment as a big Pantera fan. This album came out, I think, in 2000, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I believe it was the year 2000. And I was excited because it had been a few years. It's been since '96, and so it's been 4 years since they had released the album. And I was excited they finally released an album, but it was a disappointment. It wasn't that old school Pantera. It was very generic sounding, like nothing innovative. The first song I liked, Hellbound, I really liked it. I still listen to it to this day, but the rest of the tracks I'm not into. And when I did the history on it, by this point in the band, they were having some difficulties with the lead singer Phil Anselmo, where they weren't getting along, and he was actually recording a lot of his vocals separate from the band. So knowing that after the fact, I can tell why this record wasn't that good, because it doesn't sound cohesive. But there's one track I like, the first one, Hellbound, which is good, but it wasn't it definitely doesn't stand the test of time. It's not one of the albums that I go to. It's not one of their classics. But it doesn't matter, because the first three Pantera albums, Cowboys from Hell, Vulgar Display of Power, and Far Beyond Driven, are so phenomenally great. Even if they released bad albums after that, they released 3 solid albums. And how many bands can say they released 3 epic albums? So, which they did. Unfortunately, like I said, the Reinventing the Steel, I think, was the thing that put the band to sleep, because it just didn't have the magic wasn't there. And then they went their separate ways. Phil Anselmo went off with a side band called Down, and Dimebag Darrell and Vinnie Paul, his brother, the drummer, went to this band called Damage Plan, and I didn't like Damage Plan too much. I do like Down, though. Down is a great band. Maybe I'll do a review on Down, and they're actually still together. They've been together like over 15 years already. So that was my tribute to Pantera, one of the greatest hard rock heavy metal bands of the 90s of all time. Dimebag Darrell, the greatest band of all time. I'm glad I got to see them live. I got to be right up front in the mosh pit, and get into Pantera. If you're a fan of Pantera, I don't need to explain. You know what I mean already. If you haven't heard of Pantera, you definitely discover those first 3 albums. And I just wanted to pay tribute to them because it's been almost 20 years of being a Pantera fan. And I still listen to them to this day, and I'm glad I was able to see them live in concert, because it'll never happen again, obviously. So rest in peace, Dimebag Darrell. Pantera forever. This has been the Count Mackular tribute to Pantera. I'll see you next time.